Greetings, queens, and of course, as usual, greetings to the kings as well, because we know you are watching. We see you. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the Always the Queen, the Metamorphosis live podcast. We are here every other Sunday bringing you all of the tea. And we only serve healthy tea here, by the way. We're doing it the natural way, right? It's bush tea that we bring you here on Sundays. Bush tea, natural. All right. So we are here today for another podcast. And we are doing a part two to a previous podcast today. So, anyone who is watching this and did not see part one of this conversation, then you're going to need to go and catch part one. If you're watching us live, obviously you can't go now. You got to stay and watch this. You can go back and watch part one later. It is recorded, and you can find part one of this podcast, which is called Fibroids and Trauma. And you can find that recording on the Always the Queen Facebook page. You can also find it on the Always the Queen Twitter page and on the Always the Queen YouTube page. So that's 3 different places where you can go and watch the broadcast of part 1 of this. If you missed it, you can also download these recordings. You can share them. You have full 100% access to these, completely free of cost. Okay, so we are here with part 2 of Fibroids and Trauma, and of course my sister is here with me to break it down and to serve you the tea, Keisha. So I'm going to give her a chance to greet the people, and then we are going to go straight into today's conversation.
Welcome, everyone. I am Keisha McDonald, founder of the Happy Womb Club. And yes, welcome to the women and the men. Everyone benefits when women have happy, healthy, vibrant wombs. So my platform is dedicated to women who are in search of healthy, natural, non-invasive ways of dealing with any womb issues, or just to support their womb wellness. So whether it's fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, heavy periods, all of that stuff. We are here to promote natural healing, holistic healing for the womb and for the womb man.
All right. Thank you so very, very much. All right. So the followers and the listeners to this podcast have been clamoring for you to come back, because apparently the last time you were here, you really stirred the pot.
Oh gosh.
You shook the table, as it were. We were talking about fibroids, but we approached the discussion, shall we say, from a less than traditional perspective, because we were not talking about the traditional routes that people usually take towards healing from fibroids. We were discussing the non-traditional, but also some routes that have been tested and have found to be tried and true. So I think that is what made the ladies say, no, we need to talk to her a little bit more about this. Today, though, we want to really zoom our discussion in a little bit. We want to really be focused in our conversation, and what we really want to talk a lot about today. Not that other things won't come up, but we really want to talk diet today. Because I think this is the part of the discussion that was really, shall we say, striking a nerve with a lot of people. And so we want to talk diet today, but I want to set the parameters, because when we hear the word diet, immediately we think, or in other words, what we are consuming with our mouths. For the purpose of today's discussion, I want to say that diet is far more than what you are putting in your mouth. And so we want to be clear. So when we say we're talking diet today, we're talking about all of your consumption. Diet is what you put into your mouth. It's also what you're looking at. It's what's going in through your ears. Diet is what you are consuming on a holistic level every single day. So now that we have laid the groundwork, let's talk diet. And I'm going to just turn it over to Keisha so she can get the ball rolling. I know we're going to have questions and so on, but let's just let's get the discussion started. Um, sis, say what's on your mind right now about diet.
I think based on the parameters that you just outlined, your platform and you with the work you do, you're the perfect person to really explore this topic with. Because dealing with issues that go on mentally and emotionally and how they affect women, Black women, and how they affect our bodies. One of the diets that Black women have been fed steadily for decades is that we are not enough. We are the least desirable. We are the only group of women that can't wake up, slap a scrunchie in our hair and go to work and look professional. Our hair has to be done. We have to go the extra mile just to even look presentable. That is what we're told. We're the least desirable. We live in a colorist world, and the barriers of those, or the parameters of that colorism, says that light skinned is more feminine and dark skin is more masculine. So that's where you get your tall, dark, handsome trope, or your damsel in distress, your ultra feminine, beautiful woman that's usually exotic. And by exotic, they mean non black or as furthest away from black as possible. And what that does is you automatically put women at the darker end of the spectrum into the category of being masculine. Because if tall, dark, and handsome, if the dark skin is more aggressive, it's more assertive, it's stronger, it's easier to bear burdens, then clearly, if you are a dark skinned woman, if you're a Black woman, automatically from the gate, from the moment you are born, you are automatically placed in the masculine category. And what we do to little Black girls is we categorize them as fast, we categorize them as rude, feisty, and they must always work to improve themselves. And this is something that's reinforced through media, it's reinforced through music, it's reinforced through the school system, it's reinforced through the church. And you may ask yourself, what is the connection between that and fibroids? Well, it's very clear. Black women, in terms of our habits as consumers, we tend to purchase more things to enhance our beauties, enhance in quotations. So we straighten our hair, we wear extensions and coverings. Every race does this, of course. But the Black woman is in a very peculiar position because she can never just be unless she's being told that she's either not put together, she's not dolled up, she's not into soft life. Other races of women just rolling out of bed, their hair is deemed done. And what that does for us is that we are at a danger of consuming be making part of our diet toxic beauty rituals, toxic ideas about ourselves, toxic relationships, because we're constantly in a state of performance. We constantly have to be done. We can never just be.
Yeah.
And you see this in a very real way with the work that I do. So much of my recommendations to women who come on my program includes taking a break from acrylic nails, taking a break from toxic nail polish, taking a break from hair straighteners, hair perms, glue on the scalp. And they have a legitimate worry and fear that they won't be accepted by their spouse or within the workplace, or they'd be shunned or ridiculed amongst their peers, amongst their colleagues, because they will look shabby. You know, it's just doubly hard for us because we're constantly being told you're not good enough. And there is a connection, as we know, between the mind and the body. And if in your mind you're not good enough, your body feels that, your body interprets that, your body holds on to that pain. If you're constantly performing, if you're constantly moving away from what is natural, then your body is going to start producing unnatural things. Your body is going to do a lot of things to get your attention. You're going to have pain. You may have delayed periods, heavy periods, longer periods. What women don't understand is that your womb is your second heart. Men come with one heart. We have two. That's what makes us so special and makes us so ideal for nurturing. We have two hearts. And when your heart, your second heart, which is your womb, feels pain or feels rejection, broken, it starts to manifest dis-ease. And so one of the first things we have to do is take a good look at what we are consuming. What music? How often are we being told in music that we're bitches, that we're hoes? In Jamaica, you have the big old gal concept. I mean, these are real things. I was discussing with a brethren of mine some lyrics to some older songs I was bringing to his attention, and he was shocked. I don't know if you remember that old reggae song in the 80s called 2-Year-Old. I think it's Josie Wales.
No.
2-year-old, I want my 2-year-old. Her titty them nothing long. Her belly skin nothing marky. Right? He's saying he doesn't want to, and this was a major hit. This is something I grew up on. 2-year-old. I mean, it was obvious that it was, you know, he didn't mean literal 2-year-old, but the point
somebody
is
younger,
somebody extremely youthful.
right?
And the things that we come to associate with mature women, childbirth. He's saying he doesn't want
women
that, with long breasts or stretch marks.
Stretch marks, yeah.
What is
the big old girl concept?
The big old girl concept, big hole meaning that it's a loose vagina.
Oh, big.
And that's a prominent feature in dancehall. Prominent. And it's one of the biggest insults in urban culture if you're engaging in quarrel with someone, right? So everything about what we're being told, you're supposed to be, and of course this particular part relates to all women, but again, Black women have it doubly hard because of all the things we mentioned before.
The things that we already have to deal with.
Exactly. So we have to look at a holistic idea of consumption, and we have to address that if we really want to have transformative healing.
Right. Yeah. I had to seek some clarification on a couple of things there, but I totally get that. I get the whole idea. And let me just take a moment and greet the ladies who are in the chat section. I don't want you guys to think that I don't see you. I see you, Emerald and Monique and Leona. Greetings, queens, and thank you for being here. Yeah, so I wanted to say that I am completely 100% on board. I fully endorse the idea that you were presenting, where as Black women, we are we're never quite presentable in our natural state, or at least this is what we are taught. We're taught this by our families, we're taught this by popular culture as well. We're taught this by social media. On our own, in our completely natural, organic state, we are taught that we are not presentable, not appropriate for the public eye in our natural state, the way we were born. It is the reason why, for example, natural hair is so politicized in some places, because it has literally become um, the center of litigation. In many cases where somebody is taking another person to court, often an employer, because the employer is essentially telling them, in your natural state, you are not fit for my workplace, which of course is wild, like mind equal blown, because this is how God made me. And so you're essentially telling me that there is something wrong with the way I was created. God made a mistake, apparently, and gave me the wrong hair, or the wrong color skin, or the wrong nose, or just something else, right? And so it is wild that as Black women, we really are. And I honestly, I don't know that there is any other group of women on the planet, quite literally, who deal with with the politicization of their hair as much as we do. Perhaps maybe other body parts, other women have to deal with that as well, but our hair in particular. And I think it is one of the areas where our bodies probably get the most toxins, other than our skin, is through our hair, because because it has to be straight, because
Yeah,
only straight hair is
absolutely.
acceptable.
And the sad thing about it is that we end up perpetuating it. So just like any other oppressed group, people don't understand this. They criticize Black women a lot for going along with the trend, straightening their hair, all of that. But that's what happens when you are part of an oppressed group. You eventually internalize some of the same values. You internalize your own oppression. So you will recall some years ago when Beyonce's daughter was young, it was Black women that were making a fuss saying that how dare you have a child and her hair is not done. And even just in our local setting, if you take a child anywhere to church, wherever, and the child hair is just simply in an afro or just simply scooped up in one, elders, aunties, friends will chastise the mother for not having the child's hair done. We have a very serious fear. It's almost like seeing our hair on other people. It's like a reflection of ourselves, which we hate. And so we react with this vitriol, attacking the person, attacking the woman, saying, oh, you should have done something with your hair, or you should have done something appropriate for the setting. Yes. So, and then of course, there's the issue of texture. People have said to me, for example, it's easy for you to wear your hair out because you have looser curls. So the natural hair movement, one of the things it does, even though it did many wonderful things, but you're running and you're running away, as Bob Marley said, you can't run away from yourself. One of the things it did was create this obsession with loose curls and
Curl pattern in general.
yeah,
It's an
curl
obsession, yeah.
pattern and showing off your curls. There are a million products on the market
Yes.
dedicated to just showing
Curl
your curl pattern.
definition.
Curl definition. Thank you. That's the phrase I'm thinking for.
Yes.
Everybody is obsessed with curl definition. People stop you on the street, stop me on the street. What product? What? They must know product. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, you can't just wake up and have a healthy, clean, moisturized hair on your head unless your curls are defined or your curls look a particular way. And it's for us to do the hard work. It's for us to do the hard work because we see what's happening with our male counterparts. So Black men will have been telling us for decades how much they despise hair extensions and how much Black women trying to look like white women by straightening their hair. But how many companies have been started by Black men that are dedicated to natural looking extensions or dedicated to healthy hair care? How many companies have they started? No, they'd rather start fried chicken companies. That's what they're busy doing. They'd rather start podcasts.
Right.
Yeah. They'd rather start podcasts. They'd rather put on dresses and capitalize off of our pain, mocking our elders in our family, having a series called Big Mama, Big Mama's House, where they put on exaggerated breasts and exaggerated bottoms and make fun of us, right? And it's the same Black women, again, because of our internalized oppression. We are the ones consuming this material. We are the ones supporting it with our views and our dollars. But be very clear, understand that you are being mocked. And no one is going to come to your rescue when the inevitable happens, whether it's your illness, physical or mental, right? So we have to have these very hard conversations amongst ourselves, and we have to do the very difficult and painful work of introspection, looking at what we consume before we even get to what we put in our mouths. We have to look at what our reflection is saying to us, right? And nobody is going to rescue us but us, because everyone has, understand this, is a very important point for Black women to understand. Every group, every single group, including Black men, are in a position to become millionaires off of our pain and off of our self-hatred. Whether it's film, whether it's podcast, the number one reason why Kevin Samuels changed his tune with how he spoke to his audience is because talking about Black women makes money. There is a fetish. There is a fetish to watch the Black woman being stoned. There is a fetish, and it's big money. It's big bucks behind it.
And he became wildly famous because of that.
Of course. All of these rappers, dancehall artists, if they don't have a woman, a Black woman shaking her ass in the video on stage, that song is going nowhere. In Jamaica, if you don't have what they call a gal tune, as an artist, you can't make it to the epitome. You know what the word I'm looking for?
Yes.
Of a dancehall star. Doesn't matter if you're Culture, Sizzler, Capleton, all these guys, all these cultural singers. If they don't have a song talking about Black women, they're never going to be the star, a full star. Buju, everybody,
Man.
all of them.
Everybody.
There is money to be made off of our self-hatred, off of our exploitation, off of our pain, right? Very few, if any. And if I'm wrong, people in the chat can correct me. You can correct me. Companies that are started by people who are not Black women for our upliftment and for our growth. Very few, if any. The few that have been started are by Black women, right? I don't see non-toxic feminine care being started by Black men. I don't see it. I don't see children's book being written about loving your hair in mass being written or produced by publishing houses owned by Black men. I don't see retreats dedicated to healing the Black woman being organized and promoted by Black men. I don't see it. I don't see it. What I do hear is us being berated for being masculine, for being ugly, for trying to be white, for trying to run their lives. You see? So be very careful in what you consume, who you support. Make sure whatever you support and whatever you consume is for your own betterment and for your own healing, because nobody else is coming to save you. And they've told you so to your faces.
Right. Can we segue and speak about the skin bleaching phenomenon that is so prevalent among perhaps not just Black women, but women of color in general? I cannot speak as an expert where it comes to other women of color, but I know about my own Black women for sure. And I know that the skin bleaching phenomenon is moving through our ranks like wildfire and has been for decades. This is not new. We are just now talking about it because there is a huge movement now, what we are calling the naturalista movement, which is us really beginning to learn to love ourselves as Black women and to embrace ourselves in our natural state. It started off with the natural hair movement. A lot of women are going natural now, and you spoke to the fact that it has its advantages and disadvantages, because there is indeed the downside of this obsession with curl definition, and whether you're a 4C or a 3C or a this or a that, I don't know. I don't know if any of this applies to women like me who have dreadlocks, but I understand that has its upside and its downside. But the naturalista movement has also extended from here into skin and nails and all of the things. Everybody's trying to go back to Eden, as they say. And so I want us to talk a little bit about this, the impact this has had on us, on our skin color and skin color appreciation and colorism and all of those things over the last couple of decades, because this is another toxin that we are absolutely consuming. This is $1 billion industry, skin bleaching, like billion. Somebody somewhere is filthy rich because we are trying to make ourselves as white adjacent as possible. I would love to get your feelings on that.
If we don't address the root causes, doesn't matter how far we run, it doesn't matter naturalista, rasta, dread, natural hair movement, whatever we want to call it. We could put on 5 million retreats. If we don't get to the root cause of our self-hatred and be honest about it, we'll always take 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward. And that's the problem we have. That's one of our major issues as Black women, if we're being honest. We're not honest. We like to lie to ourselves. And I want the women, the listeners, to remember this phrase: we cannot heal that which we don't reveal. Listen again. We cannot heal that which we don't reveal. All that's going to happen is that your issue is going to be transformed into something else. It's going to take a different form. So you mentioned dreadlocks. It absolutely applies to dreadlocks, because dreadlocks can't just be anymore. It has to be retightened, retwisted. You can't go. I had dreadlocks for 10 years. I remember being invited to a wedding, And there was this big panic of how do you style dreadlocks for a wedding, because it's just not suitable, it's not formal, it's not elegant. Yes, it's associated, it's too black. As Peter Tosh said, it's too bumbleclot black for them, right? Peter Tosh's famous quote. Yes, so it has to be dyed. It's the same thing, believe me. People are dyeing their locks because they want it to look less black. People putting curly things in their hair because they want it to look less black. Also, some people are turning to locks because they want drop down hair. They want hair that's long, that they can flash, that they can flip, right? So it's all a part of the same issue. And if we're not honest about it, that's one of the reasons why people came up with the system of sister locks, and people gravitate towards sister locks because it was seen as smaller, more glamorous.
That's the little like, tiny micro locks.
The little tiny one. You could curl it. You could have little bouncy curls. That's one of the reasons why it blew up and became such a viable business, because women wanted their natural hair to fall long. They don't want the stand-up hair. They want drop-down hair, right? And that's a reality too. And why is that important? Because so much of our resources are being squandered into making us look and feel like other. So much of what we could be doing, planting, growing healthy food, buying healthy food, investing in non-toxic things, we have to pull that budget for our parents, because we're never enough. So even locks, whatever it is, and there's a lot of hypocrisy too among Black people. So many Black people will be shocked that someone would bleach their skin. But what is the difference between bleaching your skin to be white adjacent and straightening your hair to be white adjacent? There's a connection, right? The foundation is the same. You want to look more acceptable. It's just the only difference in my view, and it's not a popular view, is that the person who bleaches her skin is more honest. She's more sane. Because she's telling you point blank, yeah, if I want to have a husband, I need to be lighter. In Jamaica, they will tell you, yeah, browning carrying the swing. Brownings are the preference. Mixed race girls are the preference. Why wouldn't I want to look like the preference? So yes, I bleach my skin. Whereas the other person is going to say, no. I love being Black. I just prefer straight hair. I just look more professional with straight hair. You see? So it's a thin line. Black women don't want to have honest conversations about how we truly feel about our hair. And so it keeps getting passed on generation to generation. When our children are born with hair that looks like our hair, we plaster it with products, we stretch it. By the time we're done styling our children here, they have no edges. Yes, if we give them locks, it's because we can't deal with it. We don't want to bother with it. People talking about how their hair is so hard. What could be hard about your hair unless you've made it hard? Because you're trying to make your hair into something that it's not. What could be hard about your hair? What's hard about wearing an afro? Short or tall?
Yeah.
You have made it hard, because when you wake up in the morning, you don't want it. You don't want your afro. You want your hair to look like something else. So that's why it's going to take you 3 hours to get ready, to make your afro look like the girl with 3A hair. So it's not that your hair is hard. And then we have this external and internal conversation. So we keep telling ourselves, my hair is so hard. My hair is so difficult. My hair is hard to deal with. I don't think we realize the effect of that perpetual conversation that we're having with ourselves. We are telling ourselves every time we look at our hair that God made an error. God was like, oh, my bad, sorry,
Goodness.
my bad, I messed up there. Like,
Yeah.
we are the only group of women that have, we're the only people on this planet that have hair like cotton candy, that has hair that greets the sun. And every day we wake up and curse it. We find a problem with it. Right? So it's just the bleaching of your skin is the other side of the same coin. Right? It's just that bleaching your skin is not socially acceptable. It's socially acceptable and deemed fashionable to straighten your hair. Right? Whereas you're seen as a bit of an outcast when you bleach your skin. The average person, if someone was to come to them at night, a fairy godmother was to come to them at night and say, I can make you wake up tomorrow morning with very light skin and long wavy hair, just like that, they would say yes. I promise you, the average Black woman would say yes. So the judgment that we have for women who bleach their skin, we need to save it. We need to save it because we all suffer from it in different levels. We all had to go through a phase of self-love, of rejecting the things that were told, and there's a price that you pay. I'm sure for you, you have been on your journey where people have said negative things about your locks. People have said you'd look better with straight hair. We all go through it. So we can't be unreasonable and judge people who bleach their skin. Right? They're one of us. They're going through the same things we are going through. It's just that they're brave. But
Right?
I want to talk about too, the chemical straightening is one thing. The other thing is makeup. The trends in makeup
Careful, you're
is,
going to get the people in the chat section vex. I don't
I
want.
mean, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. But
Ooh,
things,
the
as I said, we
makeup.
need to have the hard conversations. This constant highlighting this, ladies, we don't, when we blush as Black people, when we experience the emotion of blushing, I think people forget that blushing is an emotion. When you kind of feel cute, or our cheeks don't go red, our cheeks do not go pink.
No,
So
they don't.
when we have standard makeup looks that we're applying red pigment to our cheekbones, this is what I'm saying. There's a mental disconnect because it's the person who does that will say, how could you bleach your skin? I love being Black. Do you? White people, pale-skinned women, their cheeks turn a different color. Ours don't. We might glow, but we don't. Our cheeks don't go red. Why is red cheeks a part of your makeup routine? Why is it that when the average professional makeup artist is gonna use a lighter foundation for my face than what I actually am? Right? Concealer everywhere. The concealer look white. I don't get it. I'm not proficient in makeup application, but I've watched quite a few videos and I've seen quite a few women talk about makeup application. And those three things shock me. The highlighter to make your nose look straight up, the cheeks, the red pigment, the red blush on your cheeks, and the obsession with lighter foundation. So don't come to me and tell me, how could someone bleach their skin when your makeup is a form of bleaching? Your makeup is a form of whitewashing. The filter that you're using on your photos is a form of whitewashing. I see your profile pic, and when I meet you in person, I wonder who you are, because you've chosen to use a filter that lightens your skin, right? So just because you're not brave enough to actually get the cream and bleach your skin, it doesn't mean that you're suffering from any less self-hatred than the average person, because you do it in your photos, so we need to be real, and we need to self-introspect and start with where we are to address these things.
Yeah, 100% agreed. 100%. I want to throw a question at you, but I'm going to go to the chat section first. And there is a comment here that I really want to highlight, and then I'm going to ask the question that I have on my mind. So let me take a quick glance at our chat section and greet some of these queens that are over here. Greetings to Pamela and Sandra and Leona and Saran. Thank you so much for being here and for rocking with us here on the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. Of course, we have the amazing Keisha McDonald with us today from the Happy Womb Club. And in case anyone is just tuning in and you're not sure what exactly we are talking about today, we are doing Fibroids and Trauma Part 2. And just because you're not hearing the word fibroids being repeated over and over does not mean that's not what we're discussing. Every single thing that we are unpacking here today is going to be linked to fibroids, fibroid growth, fibroid development, and also even to freeing yourself from fibroids. So stay with us for the entirety of this conversation. Now, there is a comment here in the chat section, and I feel like Leona was kind of peeping my thoughts, because this is directly connected to the question I want to ask you. Leona says, lacking accountability is too rampant amongst us. We become defensive. And I agree with Leona, because what I want to ask is about the dishonesty that often causes us to impede our own progress in the healing of our bodies. Not just fibroids, but the healing of our bodies in general. As women specifically, sometimes our dishonesty is our own, it's like us shooting ourselves in the foot. We say we want to be better, we want wellness, we want wholeness, we want health, both physical and mental, but we are also dishonest. And I'm sure I've heard you talking about this on the Happy Womb Club platform. And if anybody has not visited Keisha's platform yet, I am encouraging you to do so. It's called Happy Womb Club. And I'm pretty sure at some point I've heard you having conversations on your platform about how our own dishonesty, our dishonesty in what we are eating and what we are consuming in general, even when we come to seek help. And I can speak to this as a therapist as well. I'm not a nutritionist, but as a therapist, I have experience with this as well, where people come seeking healing. And with their mouths, they are saying, I want healing, I want wholeness, I want health. But also with the same mouth, they're being dishonest about the things that they need to let go of in order to experience the wholeness that they seek. So I would love to hear your take on how dishonesty, our own dishonesty, is standing in our way as we try to heal our bodies from things like fibroids and other ailments.
Yeah, so totally. It's Our dishonesty is one of the biggest nooses. It's an invisible noose around our neck, and it's holding us down, and it's threatening to swing and end us. You see, one of the first things I do when women come to me is to have a discussion about their diet. And I'm telling you, it never fails. One of the first things they start to tell you the virtues of their diet. Oh, I don't eat sugar. I don't do this. I don't do that. Oh, when you look into the details of their diet, they're eating nothing but sugar. You know, so as I said before, you cannot heal what you don't reveal. You cannot treat someone or something. You cannot solve a problem unless you identify what the problem is, right? You have to be clear. You have to know what you're dealing with in order to address it. And we never get a chance to address things because we want to live in la la land. We want to be who we're not. We want to act like we're not a particular group of women, that we can just be like everyone else. We're not. 80% of Black women will have a fibroid diagnosis at some point in their life. That's the highest number of any group of women on the planet. There are specific things about our history, about our diet, about how we exist on this planet that is causing dis-ease in our womb. And if we don't address that and address that honestly and candidly, we can never heal. So, women want to hold on to everything that is harming them, including lies. So we have to be honest. We have to stop being so thin-skinned, right? We can't wait until our womb is now at the threat of being removed by hysterectomy, and then you want a herbalist or a doctor or a holistic practitioner to work miracles. No, let's start with a holistic view of health. Let's start with what you're consuming, who you're sleeping with, who you're watching on television, who you're listening on the radio, who you're reading. Let's start with you, right? Let's start with your meddling personality. Let's start with your mean-spiritedness. Let's start with how you are cruel to others, and life is reflecting that to you. Let's start with how you are constantly gossiping. Let's start with that. These seeds, these negative emotions, as I said before, your womb is your second heart. And if your heart is bitter, it's going to manifest nothing but good, sis.
Yes. I often have similar conversations with my clients. People who come into psychotherapy, seeking assistance with, mood disorders, with stress, for example. This is a very common example. Many people will come into therapy because they are burnt out. They are dealing with extreme levels of stress. And so they come in seeking help with anxiety, with stress management. And they are often taken aback when we have a conversation about how they are creating problems for themselves. People never expect that conversation to come up in therapy. They expect you to address the outside issues, the things in their environment, the people in their environment especially.
Right.
They are okay with that conversation and how all of the outside peripheral things are impacting their stress level, and how everybody else and everything else is the problem. But I often, in the first or the second session, this is going to come up, and we're going to talk about how you are perhaps the biggest source of your own stress. And people sit back in their chair and they look at me, they're like, what did you just say? Because no, I'm not the problem. And many times you are. When we discuss, because one of the conversations that it is important to have if you are seeking assistance with stress management is we need to do a full assessment of what the sources of stress are in your life. And quite often, one of the items on that list is you. You are a source of stress for yourself. Let's talk about the things that you are doing. Let's talk about the behaviors you are engaging in on a daily basis that are sources of stress to yourself.
Mhm.
And we are going to add that to the list of things that we must address if we are truly going to have a conversation about stress management, right? So I think this whole thing about accountability and lacking accountability, as Leona said, is so huge where it comes to health. Our health in general really depends greatly on our ability to just be honest
Mhm.
with ourselves. Honesty. I've
Mhm.
heard you, one of the things I heard you mention, and when I saw this video on your platform, I laughed so loud. I was cracking up because you said many times one of the issues that you have with women who come to you for healing of fibroids is they won't tell the truth about how much they are eating. Something as simple as that. How much food they are putting on their plates. Even that they won't be honest about. They will tell you, I hardly eat, I just eat and I just
Always,
in
always,
reality.
without fail, without fail. And it works both ways, because um, not only do we look outside of ourselves for the problem, we look outside of ourselves for the solution. So, you know, for example, when it comes to dating and finding a partner, Black women, and I'm speaking specifically to Black women because that's the women I know most about, we are spending thousands of dollars on femininity coaches, wife school, how to dress in pink and wear pretty dresses, all these things because we're looking for a partner to fulfill our lives, to make us happy. But you ask that same person to invest in themselves, invest in the best quality food, the most organic healthcare, invest time in food prep, and they don't have it because the reward at the end of that investment is just you. The reward of taking time to prep your food, taking time to pick your organic skincare properly or to make your own skincare, taking the time to use organic stuff for your hair in your home. The reward at the end of that is a better you. And the problem is, for many of us, that's not enough. We want someone else,
Mm,
right? So we will only work when we're going to be rewarded with a person, with a husband, with a provider man, with a high value man. How about working to be a better you? So that when you
work on
sit
you
with
for
yourself,
you.
for you, so that the reward is you. The reward is
Right.
you leveling up, not leveling up for to be a wife, leveling up to be happier, to have better movement, flexibility, stamina, to be able to fulfill your God given purpose on the planet, to be energized, to be useful to your community and your family, to be useful to yourself. How about that? How about your health being the crown on your
Mm,
head and the crown on your finger, not the fact that you're chosen by a man? And why this is important too is because one of the pushbacks women give when you try to guide them in cleaning up their diet is that they don't want to lose their curves. They don't want to get too skinny. They want to be thick and sick. They would rather be thick and sick. So I'm saying, who are these curves for? Who are you trying to impress? Are you trying to impress a man who would rather you have tumors in your womb than temporarily lose some weight, perhaps to just flush your system and heal your system? You know, And you might think it's trivial, but it's a major concern. They go into panic mode if they think that they're gonna lose some weight. Oh, I just can't. My bottom is getting too small. My hips are getting too small. I need to eat my curves. What can I eat?
Hmm.
Even if they're seeing results. I had a client, she lives in the UK, but she's West African. And she told me the doctor says her fibroid shrunk by 5 centimeters. But her husband was pressuring her every day that she's no longer attractive, and she kept telling him, just a couple more months, I just need to fully heal. And it was a major issue. She'd come to me, what do? I can't live like this. I'm no longer attractive to my spouse. I said, if he disappears, who will you be left with? You, right? You. So you have to make sure that you are straight, whether he likes it or not. So these are some of the things that we have to address as women, or need for outside validation, or
Yes.
priorities, right? And I understand it, because going back to the start of our conversation, if all your life you're being told that you're not attractive enough, that you're not good enough, that you're not feminine enough, women are gonna place a lot of stock into how they look. So if you are praised or valued for your curves, that's the one thing you don't want to lose, because you don't have light skin, you don't have straight hair. So I understand it and I sympathize. But what I ask women to do is, don't think of life in the short term, think in the long term. Where do you see yourself 10, 15 years from now? Is it going to be about your curves, or is it going to be about your health and well-being?
Hmm. Good question. I'm going to highlight a couple comments from the comment section, um, that I think are really aligning with what we are saying here. Saran, and by the way, Saran is a medical doctor. And Saran says we are quick to blame others and don't see the part we play in our situation. Um, she also says most of the clients I see, stress is the root of their health issues, like high blood pressure, anxiety, and depression. She agrees when she says clients always underreport what they eat and how much they are eating. That is a real problem, right? That is a real that clearly that is a universal issue, right? And finally, she says, I never understood that. Clients want to lose weight, but they never want to lose their butt. They want to make sure that the butt stays put. Oh boy. So, and finally, I want to bring up this comment from Leona, which says, "True thing, we are our worst enemy." Right? Um, let's pivot a little bit, since we're already talking a little bit about people being dishonest and underreporting. Let's talk about the fast food industry, because
Mm-hmm.
how do we have a conversation about fibroids and diet, because we're focusing
Mm-hmm.
on diet today, just in case anyone just joined. We are discussing diet as it is connected to the healing of the female body, and specifically fibroids. So let's take a look at the fast food industry. Earlier today, you and I were talking about the obsession that we have with chicken as black people, not just black women, and how the fast food, specifically the franchises that specialize in chicken, are capitalizing on this. Like, we can't live without the chicken. What are they putting in this chicken, Keisha? What is going on? And tell us how this chicken is connected to the growth of fibroids.
You see, whilst we have been running away from ourselves and not doing introspection, people have been committed to studying us and our habits for centuries. From slavery, they have been studying us. In fact, we are well aware that the recipe for the most famous fried chicken is from a black woman. It was created by a black woman under slavery, right? And was stolen and capitalized on. So they have been observing our habits, and they have figured out how to use them against us. But because we refuse to introspect, look at our habits, and ask the hard questions, we're going to always be on the losing end of these transactions. Now, whether you talk about the hormones that they're giving the chicken, the sodium, the sugar in the sauces, the sugar in the butter, the unhealthy oils, all of that contributes to chicken being one of the worst things. Fried chicken in particular, one of the worst things that you can consume especially if you have fibroids. Not to mention, the marketing. Marketing is powerful. Not to mention the sides that we have it with. Whether it's fast food or not. When we go to brunch, we had fried chicken with waffles and syrup, alcohol, sweet tea, hot chocolate, coffee. That's a whole plethora of chemicals, phytoestrogens and estrogen that we're consuming in just one sitting. Mashed potatoes, starch again, butter, corn on the cob. Corn is a GMO product. And then now they serve it with butter. They serve it with all manner of things, right? Chicken, what else is it served with? Fries, French fries, biscuits with the cheap white flour because, hey, it's a business. Nobody's going out to get organic spelt or organic kamut to make your biscuits, right? And it's mass produced. No love, no care, no nurturing is going into that meal, right? It's a mass produced meal that has been carefully and scientifically put together with all the elements of sugar, starch, sodium, chemicals, and coloring, fat to make you addicted to it. So you keep going back to it, just like the Wasteman X. You keep going back and you don't know why. And I don't deny that it's addictive. My issue is what we're talking about. The refusal to accept. The refusal to accept that you have an addiction is like me smoking crack and acting like, what's the big deal, guys? And I'm here puffing my crack pipe. It is an addiction, and it is an unhealthy addiction, and it's killing us. In Jamaica alone, we have a population of about 3 million people on this small island, and we have 37 KFC restaurants, and we have much more other fried chicken franchises, but just KFC alone, we have 37 of them. There's a new franchise that announced, I believe, yesterday called Bird Shack that is being brought into the island, and they promise to open 20 franchises. And their reason is because Black people are addicted to fried chicken. These are Black people, these are Black men, right? Who are saying it's lucrative. It's financially lucrative to play upon and to exploit our addictions. So we have to understand the playing field. We have to understand that we can't be lackadaisical. We can't just chill and leave it up to chance. We have to start making our lunches, if necessary, to take to work. This excuse, oh, there's nothing healthy where I work, or there's nothing healthy where I live. Nah, sis. You have to make the trek to the farmer's market, go to the ethnic stores, go to the bodega. You might have to start planting your little herbs in little pots, whether you have garden or not. Put it in little pots. You have to make concerted effort to address your eating habits and your and how you conduct yourself. You know, the thing is too, what we have to be mindful of is this idea that that junk food is only limited to fast food. That's not true. Junk
Mm.
food is in your higher end supermarkets. Junk food is not just fast food anymore. Junk food is defined by the ingredients, not how quickly you get it. So even if you go to a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant that charges you a lot of money, and they're using cornstarch as the base for their sauces, they're using sugar as the base for their sauces. It doesn't matter that they made it from scratch. It doesn't matter. The fact is, it's still junk food because it contains ingredients that are harmful to the body. If they're using coloring, if their pasta sauce or their tomato sauce, it is made using red dyes instead of natural coloring like annatto, for example. It's still junk food. You're just paying a higher price for it. Same goes with your alcohol, same goes with your beverages. When you get your mocktails or your cocktails and they have this pretty bright purple color, pretty bright blue color, pretty bright pink color, is it natural coloring? Highly doubt it. So what is that doing to your body? So you have to be proactive. You have to be honest. You have to do an inventory of how you eat, where you eat, how often do you eat it. That's why I promote fasting. Fasting is the cheat code. Because if you're only eating half the time, then you cut out half the garbage, right? But again, everybody wants their bottom to look like Jada Kingdom. It's not possible.
No, not Jada Kingdom.
Not possible, guys. I'm sorry.
Not possible. Not possible.
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. We're going to talk about fasting a little later down. But before we come to fasting, another question. And that is about meat replacement, right? Let me highlight a couple of comments because I have a question that I want to bring up from Leona asking about meat replacement. But first, Saran says here, I have cut out chicken from my diet and I found my periods got shorter and lighter. It made me wonder, what are they putting in or feeding these chickens?
Corn.
That's a
GMO
good.
corn.
Can you say more about this GMO corn? Because I love corn. Should I stop eating corn? What's going on with the corn?
I love corn too. I love corn, but it's one of the most tampered with product. The original, what they call corn or corn-like thing is a plant called teosinte, which I believe they still use in Mexico. They use it to make the tortillas. It looks like a corn, but it's much smaller. And then there's parts of Asia which they use what they call the purple corn, which is not as genetically tampered with. It's more like a hybrid. But what we consume in the Americas, in the Caribbean, as corn, what we know to be as corn, that's a straight up genetically modified crop. And they use it for cattle feed, they use it to feed animals. It would plump you up, it would fat you up. That's what it does to the animals. But it's also high in estrogen and high in chemicals. So
which means that it contributes to fibroid growth.
Absolutely. And the danger about the corn is that it's a silent ingredient in so many things. So high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is in the ingredient in children's cough syrup and regular cough syrup. You can sometimes find it in baby formula, high fructose corn syrup. You know, some of the snacks that we eat unthinkingly. We don't think about
that.
cookies, Oreos, whatever. You just grab a snack and you eat a pack, maybe 2 packs a week, if you're conservative, and you think, what's the big deal? I eat healthy. But it's these small things. This is why I'm encouraging women to be careful and to take stock and to take inventory, because you might look at it and you think, And again, cornstarch. People use cornstarch. When you go to a restaurant and you see how the sauce is glistening, how it has that glistening kind of snake profile. I'm using the wrong terminology. Snake is not a good thing to compare food with. But when you make your sauce at home versus when you go to a restaurant, it's totally different. It looks more solid and it looks more shiny. The reason why it looks like that is because of cornstarch, right? Corn is in a lot of things. It's just like soy lecithin. Soy lecithin is one of the products that's in so many things, so many snacks, even vegan snacks, especially vegan snacks. Popcorn, we love our popcorn.
Not the popcorn.
Oh, come on. You see, here's the thing, what you have to understand.
Oh, no.
No, here's the thing that you have to understand. Nature typically doesn't produce things in such mass to feed billions of people every single day. And so that is why men who are greedy and humans who don't want to go along with nature, they have to find ways to tamper with it. Because how else would you find corn? Even if we were to use the teosinte, which is the original plant, how would we find it produced in such high numbers, in such large quantities, to supply all the movie theaters in the US alone? Let's just talk about US. When I even talk about Europe, the demand, you see, we are our human beings, we're our own problem, We want to be able to go to the movie theater and have boxes of popcorn. We want it available every night. If you go on a Saturday night and the manager says there's no popcorn, we're going to cancel that movie theater. We are our own problem. So how is it possible? How do we think it's possible that nature would produce corn in its natural state to supply so many people every single day with popcorn, with corn tortillas, with corn chips? It's not possible. It has to be made. Even mango season in the Caribbean that produces so much mango, there is a season. It ends. So if you want to have mangoes every single day, mango juice, mango sauce, mango pepper, mango this, mango latte, mango everything, you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to eat something artificial, because nature cannot keep up with you, right? Nature cannot keep up with you. So if we insist on overeating, which is what we do, eating more than we need, eating unnecessarily, eating because of trend. We can't watch Netflix without opening a bag of popcorn, without opening a bag of corn chips. We need a dip. We need corn chips, tortillas to dip in our salsa, to dip in our guac. That's overkill. And the planet cannot produce natural foods like that. So Monsanto and these guys have the perfect solution for you.
We make it artificial for you.
Yes. And we make money at your expense.
Right. This makes me think about the importance of seasonal eating and how beneficial this is for our bodies. Because as you rightly said, there is no plant that is bearing fruit all year round. That's not a thing. No plant is blooming 365 days of the year.
And certainly not in that quantity.
And not in that. Exactly. No. Exactly. At some point, whatever that food is, it will go out of season. And some other food will come into season. Yes. And so it speaks to how we humans, as a part of nature, should really try our best to flow with with nature as it moves, rather than insisting on stagnating as the universe is flowing through the seasons. Our bodies, I believe this, also flows in seasons. And so we like to drag out a season. We like to drag out a season. Listen, nobody can drag out a season like human beings. Like, no, stop doing that. Stop it. It is unhealthy. Change seasons, please. Change seasons. And this is applicable to all areas of your life, not just your food. Sometimes even the relationships that we are a part of have ended the season in which they were supposed to be happening. And we drag out a season. We hold on tight to people who were really meant to be seasonal in our lives. We want to keep them there. This isn't going to be seasonal. You will stay with me forever. And the next thing you know, problems, 100 problems. Because when the season ended, you chose to drag it on. Stop trying to stretch a season and just end. Learn to change seasons. Learn to change seasons. It is one of the reasons we are so stressed and so sick as
Yeah,
well.
and the same
I
is
know I'm
true.
really
The
on my
same is
soapbox here, but I have to say this
yes,
because
yes,
it's
yes.
so, it's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy, but the same is true for the volume in which we eat. I tell people all the time when I talk about fasting, there's a time for feasting and there's a time for fasting. Every ancient civilization practices this. Every spirituality, every religion, right? I'm often taken aback at people who say they're Christians, but when you mention the concept of fasting, they give you this pushback like Christ fasted. You know, you can't, you should not be just feasting 365 days of the year. That is going to deteriorate your mind, your body, and your spirit. Yes? So, nothing I'm saying is really radical if you think about it. Fasting is a critical part of healing. And living things, because it's not just humans. Animals fast too when they're not feeling well. You see a dog go and lie down and he doesn't want to eat for a couple of days. You're giving your system a rest. You're connecting with something else. But part of the problem is that we are in pain and we don't want to admit it. So we want to drown ourselves in eating. Again, goes back to this idea of being dishonest and accountability. So we want to act like it's normal to eat this big plate of food every single day, 3-4 times a day. No, it's not. You need to be able to close your mouth, meditate, drink water, drink bitter teas, whether you have fibroids or not. That's just a part of good pum management, to be frank. No, seriously.
Yes.
Half the yeast infections and issues that we have, if we take time to schedule fasting to get the candida out of our gut, to get the bacteria out of our gut, to get the parasites out of our system, we wouldn't have some of the yeast infections and bacterial infections that we have. So fasting is just a part of your good pum management. Fasting, drinking a lot of water, bitter teas. The more bitter things we consume as women, the sweeter we are. The sweeter you smell. Plants like quassia, cerasee, bitter melon, right? Cascara sagrada, going to cleanse your colon. The colon and the womb are neighbors. If the colon is congested, so will the womb. So we can't keep stuffing waffles, stuffing popcorn, stuffing fried chicken, stuffing daiquiri and all kind of nonsense without taking a moment to cleanse and to flush and to invoke bitter things. Rest your pancreas, rest your colon, give it water, coconut water, natural juices, green juices. You will see a difference in the smell of your vagina, the moisture in your vagina, the lubrication, the muscles in your vagina. All of these things will be affected if you just take time, close your mouth, stop eating.
Fast.
Use the time that you're fasting from food to feast on other things. Feast on books. Feast on good rest. Feast on great conversation. Go in the bath. Make yourself a nice warm bath. Love on yourself. Exfoliate. Get a massage. Go in the sun. Okay? Other organs need food. Get sunlight on your skin, on your hair. Just stretch. You know, eating is overrated. You don't need to eat that much to be healthy. Sometimes what you need is to give food a break.
True. True. Yeah, I agree with you on the fasting, and this ties into the whole discussion on seasonal eating, because even animals during some seasons, they, as you said, they stop eating, and there are humans who just they want to just eat round the clock every day,
You can't even tell
365
them. You can't even
non-stop.
tell them to skip breakfast. If you tell them to skip breakfast, they start to panic. And what it is, it's an emotional issue, you know. And I'm sure you know, there are studies that have linked, for example, the addiction to milk to the feeling of wanting to be loved, because the milk, whether it's from a cow or from a goat or from a human, is lactation. It's something that is used to comfort the young. So in many cases, when people say they want ice cream or they want something milky before bed, it's because they are hurting and they need that comfort, and they're seeking this thing to be comforted, right? It's not as simple as they would like us believe. Oh, I have ice cream cravings. No, sis, you need a hug. You need someone to talk to. You need someone to understand you. That's why you're going to have a tub of ice cream. They've talked about people who are addicted to salty snacks, who have unresolved anger issues. People who are addicted to sugars because you have no sweetness in your life. So you keep going back to these sweets to make yourself get that high. You know, people who are addicted to caffeine or coffee is because they lack motivation. They lack that natural energy, that natural purposeful thing that drives us. And rather than working on that, we become addicted to these um, external chemicals, because that's what they are. You know, these things that they manufacture to keep us going. Right? Maybe your body doesn't need caffeine in the morning. Maybe you just need to have something that's going to motivate you to go through your day. Maybe you just need a purpose, not caffeine. You know?
That part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to pull up two questions from the chat section. Both of these questions are from Leona. And I think that they are very good questions that she is posing. The first question that she asks is, she says, wow, gonna have to cut off chicken. What can I replace it with apart from fish or seafood? What are the good meats for women with fibroids?
Okay, great question. I want to start off my answer with a caveat. We really want to get away from using language like substitute. Because to my mind, when you say substitute something for something, it suggests that that thing should have been there in the first place. And I find that a lot of people, especially when they embark on a vegan diet or a plant-based diet, that's how they get into trouble, because they're constantly looking for a meat replacement or a substitute. You want to focus always on nourishment, not substitute. What's going to provide your body with the minerals that you need, the energy that you need. Things like iron, calcium, magnesium. These are the things that you want to focus on, because people will talk about meat substitutes and going to the health food store, so-called health food store, and buy Beyond Chicken, veggie burger meat, fake sausage, tofu, soy, these things which are gonna put you into problems. Okay? Question you need to ask yourself: what is the purpose of the meat in your diet? What is the purpose of it? Is it a taste issue, or is it truly a nutritional issue? Because if it's a nutritional issue, then we know we can get minerals from many plants, right? We can get iron from things like dates. There are sea vegetables, which most women don't consume enough of. That's why we have thyroid issues, right? Sea vegetables like kelp, nori. What is really missing, right? There are things like squash that we need to be consuming more of, right? Herbal foods like red raspberry leaf, nettle, which are very rich in minerals, milk thistle, rich in minerals. That's what you need to focus on. Now, if it's a matter of taste, then this is where your creativity comes in, right? I have a cookbook, by the way, for anybody who's interested. But if it's a matter of taste, then that's a completely different thing. So I don't recommend any meat products for women with fibroids. What I do recommend, though, is that you introduce yourself and get familiar with the world of mushrooms. Mushrooms actually contain things that block estrogen from your body, and not in a way where you become imbalanced, but in a way that you will have just enough for what you need, but it blocks the excessive estrogen. So I'm talking about portobello mushrooms. Shaga is a very good mushroom, and you can get shaga in tea form. Reishi mushroom is very good as well. These are the things that you wanna introduce yourself, and it's very versatile. You can make jerk sauce and add it to your mushrooms. You can grill them, you can saute them, you can stir fry them, you can have them raw. I love my mushrooms raw,
I
right?
didn't know you could eat raw mushrooms.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I had for dinner last night, raw mushrooms, right? So the mushroom is a thing that I would say, if you're looking for that taste or something to remind you of meat in your dish, I would say go for mushrooms. I would avoid the replacement stuff.
Mm, okay. Interesting. I'm going to have to buy mushrooms more often from the supermarket. I rarely ever buy mushrooms because, if I'm going to be completely honest, when I think of mushrooms, I think, oh, it's so exotic. Yeah, it's not the kind of thing, to be completely transparent. We tend to eat the foods that we were most often exposed to, you know,
Oh,
through
that
childhood
that
and
that
so on.
reminds me of a point that I wanted to make earlier when you were talking about um, eating along with the season and with rhythm. It's so interesting, right? One of the first things when you speak to women about eating healthier, they will say they don't want to get bored. They have a fear of getting bored. They need variety. When the truth is, the average person eats the same 3 to 4 animals
Over and
during your
over.
life. The average person, chicken, fish, steak, some kind of maybe additional seafood. It's not like you're eating 40 different animals. The average person doesn't eat snake and bear and cockroaches. The average person is eating the same things in rotation, the same sides: pasta, rice, potatoes, corn. So again, it's a lot of disingenuity that's going on when we discuss eating healthier. because suddenly there's this demand that you have to be able to eat 5,000 exotic plants and you need 50 recipes. Keep it simple. A bowl of fruits for your snacks, fruit smoothie as breakfast, for example. You can have salads, you can play around with quinoa, explore mushrooms, explore different spices. You don't have to be a chef to eat healthy, right? You don't have to be having these exotic meals every day. You don't have to fly to Asia to get dragon fruit. You know, you can have your melons, your berries, your papaya, you know. Just be consistent and try to keep it as natural as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. All right. Another question from Leona that I'm going to highlight. What suggestion do you have for me as a very active person slash PE teacher with reference to fasting? I am physically active except on Sundays.
Right. So unless you're having issues with anemia, fasting actually gives you more energy than eating. Yeah. So your energy will increase,
Stay more.
especially if whilst fasting you drink herbal tea. So things like dandelion, sarsaparilla, burdock root, tea that's rich in iron. So what I would recommend for you, because your mind is powerful, right? Sometimes what we experience is not real hunger; it's psychological hunger, because we're accustomed to eating at certain times. Your body's gonna be like, "Hey, hey, 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 what's going on? Where's the food?" So what I would suggest to you is start small. So if you Sunday is your day of rest, maybe you can fast on a Sunday only. Start with 1 day a week, or skip one meal. Or you may not be able to do just herbal teas. Probably you can do a week with just fruit. They call it fruit fasting. Fruits with your teas like the red raspberry leaf, the nettle, the dandelion, teas that are very, very nourishing and very nutritious. These herbs are very nutritious when it comes to their mineral content. So I would start slow, get your body and your mind accustomed to it, see how you feel it out, and your body will tell you. Your body is the expert, not me and not you. It's your body, and it's gonna say to you, "Hey, girl, can I get something to drink? I'm over this now. Thank you very much. I can only do 24 hours this week. I can't do 48 hours." Or you might be one of those people. There are people who fast 21 days, and they say after the third day they don't feel hunger. I'm not one of those people. I can tell you that. For me, past 3 days is very challenging. I find it difficult to go past 3 days. But I have friends and I know people who do 21 days every year easily. So just test out your body, be gentle. It's a question, it's not a demand. You're asking your body, are you okay with this? Are you comfortable? Are you having pain? Is this enough nutrients for you? You know, be gentle. You're not trying to prove anything. We're not in the fasting Olympics. It's not a competition. You just want to introduce this concept to your body and be as slow and as gentle as you need to be.
Right. Okay. I have a question. This one is from me, not from any of the listeners. I am curious about CMOS and its connection to fibroids. I have heard that something about CMOS, something in CMOS, is very beneficial for women who have fibroids and who are trying to shrink fibroids. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So sea vegetables in general are very good for women trying to shrink fibroids. But there's something about sea moss because of its high mineral content and what they call its electricity. It's a very electric plant. So it helps the womb to heal itself. It helps to fuel the body's own internal healing mechanism. And that is why you see so many celebrities are jumping on the trend, because people have healed themselves just with sea moss alone, just drinking sea moss every day. The challenge though with it is, just like with everything else, just like the corn, just like the teosinte, when things become trendy, they are at a risk of being exploited. So there's a lot of fake sea moss on the market. There are people who are growing sea moss in pools, or there are people who are growing sea moss in the sea but on line. So it's not being allowed to grow naturally from the rocks, which is how our ancestors or family in the Caribbean in particular, that's how we're accustomed to it. People would dive and pluck the sea moss from the rocks. But because it's big business now, we have people like Kim Kardashian talking about sea moss. People don't have time to wait on nature anymore. So people are growing it themselves. Some parts of the sea, it's over harvested. Again, going back to the issue, humans are just reckless when it comes to nature. And sea moss is not the only thing that, there are many, 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 many herbs, even herbs that are not having yet to be discovered, that are good for fibroids and good for tumors. But we get so fixated on this one thing, we become fanatical. It goes back to consumerism again. We become fanatic. I want sea moss gummies, I want sea moss gel, I want sea moss smoothies, and we're going on sea moss challenge, and we have to do 30 days of sea moss. Why? So we have created this problem for ourselves. So yes, while sea moss is excellent and I recommend it, make sure you investigate your source, make sure you trust your source. And sea moss is supposed to make you have frequent visits to the bathroom. It's supposed to expel mucus from the body. You're supposed to see mucus coming from your body. You're supposed to see it in your skin. You're supposed to have increased energy. If you're not seeing these things whilst you're drinking sea moss, you have the wrong plant. Someone duped you. So just investigate your source properly. Make sure it's someone that is diving and not exploiting the sea moss craze, and you'll be fine. It's a wonderful addition to your arsenal when it comes to healing your womb.
Okay. All right. You touched on addictions earlier. I want to talk a little bit more about addictions because, as a therapist, I work with addiction sometimes, and often it is addiction to substances, addiction to behaviors that people are seeking assistance for. In my almost 2 decades as a psychotherapist, I cannot recall anyone ever coming in to see me to free themselves from a food addiction. I literally sat down and thought about it. I've worked with women who have body dysmorphia. And body dysmorphia can sometimes be connected to food addictions or other types of addictive behaviors. But I've never had anyone come in specifically saying, listen, I have a food addiction and I need you to help me to find freedom from this because it is destroying my life. Never had that happen in almost 20 years. Why is it? Are people in denial about the fact that they can be addicted to food? What's going on?
People are in denial, but also culturally, Black people, health is associated with eating a lot. So if you're looking slimmer than they would like you to be, the first thing they say, oh, you're depressed, you're sad, your husband leave you because a happy, healthy person is supposed to have a robust appetite. And so culturally, we've begun to associate eating and food with being in a good state mentally. So we never have or attach a negative connotation to mental health and food, right? I think that's one thing. And I also think the, capitalist enterprises that are into food production, they have a vested interest in making us think that it's not possible to be addicted to food, because so much addictive behaviors is promoted as normal. So one of the things I find alarming is when you go on TikTok, for example, and people will show their pantry, yeah, and they will have a dozen different coffee syrups just to make coffee, and they're showing how they organize it. And it's not limited to coffee syrup. It can be creamers for their coffee. It can be different types of milk. It can be different types of juices. The pantry is stocked like we're in World War One. Like we're stacking our pantry because we're going to have to be underground for a while, and we can't afford to be out of food. Jars and jars and jars and boxes of food, right? The idea of even a pantry, if you think about it, to me is abnormal in a modern world. The idea that we have a pantry full of food where the expiry dates are 10, 8 years. Why would we need to be eating like that? And we're not under the Holocaust. We're not in World War. Why do we have a pantry full of things, of dried foods, of pickled food, of jarred food that is meant to sit there for years? You see? And all of this contributes to our poor health, because rather than, okay, I'm in the mood for pasta tonight, let me grab my tomatoes and blend up some pasta sauce. Rather than do that, we go to a jar that expires in 2030. And that's normal. Mm-hmm. We think that's normal. And so you come to me or and I have nothing in my pantry except soap, dishwashing soap. And people think, whoa, Keisha, you're having it hard. You're going through a rough patch, You need help, you need a loan. And it's because the food I eat expires. The food I eat, if I don't eat it, it rottens. I don't have time to be putting stuff in a pantry to rot, because my food is going to rotten. Because I aim to eat fresh food. So when it goes bad, I can see the skin going bad, right? So with the exception of, you have your quinoa, your grains, which shouldn't be 80% of your diet. 80% of your diet should be fresh food. But apart from those things, we live in a society where this is normal. It's normal to stock food with expiry dates for years to come. Now that is going to fuel an addiction to food, right? My mother, if her pantry wasn't stocked to the brim, she would go into a form of depression. She had to see her pantry filled, even if it's items that she wasn't going to eat. How many people do we know, even especially elders, that have things in their pantry that are long expired, but they won't throw them out? We have an addiction to seeing visual food, whole heap of food. We want to see lots and lots of food. That's how we feel better about ourselves. So much of our self-worth is attached to eating abundantly, not eating well, eating abundantly. We want to see the plate full, right? And that is how we get our addiction. So we go, even if we have a craving, we don't go and buy a scoop of ice cream, or we don't go and have a scoop of ice. We need a bowl of ice cream, So we have an issue. Some of it is rooted in slavery, because when you spend so much of your time on this earth not having, when you now have the ability to go to the supermarket and pick things off the shelf freely, you will abuse it.
Hmm.
So we really have to look at that and address it for what it is. There's no need for you to have so many um, bottled and boxed and bag food. You're not an animal. Animals are the ones that eat bag dried food. That's cat food. That's dog food. Why are you eating kibbles? Why are you storing kibbles? Are you a dog?
Kibbles.
Yes, this is what it is. Think of it.
Wow.
These things that were sold, cereal,
Yes.
Kellogg's. If you look at what cereal is, cereal evolved from the grain industry, the wheat industry, because they had an excess. They had an excess of these things, and they didn't know what to do with it. So the genius, evil masterminds come up with something. They dry the corn, make it into flakes, and they come up with a slogan. Kellogg's came up with that slogan: breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That's less than 100 years ago. You see? So these dried things that we have in box, and now when you tell people, oh, so what am I going to substitute for cereal? Why are you eating cereal? What do you mean substitute? You shouldn't have been having it. What happened to fresh fruit?
Right.
Have some fresh fruit. Why are you talking about dried grain? You just woke up from an 8-hour fast. That's why it's called break fast. You're breaking a fast. You just slept for 7 hours, and you want to introduce something dry, something dehydrated in your body. Why? Reintroduce moisture. Reintroduce minerals, tea, fruit. So it's just a mindset that we need to change, and we need to it's gonna be hard for a lot of people, but it's something that we're gonna have to look at if we're serious about wellness.
Right. Yeah. Now, the next thing I was going to go to, and this is the last thing, because believe it or not, we've already been on here for almost 2 hours.
Wow.
It's coming up to the top of the second hour, right?
Yeah.
So this is the last thing we will touch on. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was female products. I wanted us to talk about female products, and how those are connected to fibroids, right? And somebody actually got into the comment section and started asking about that before I had a chance. I see Leona is already on it. Leona, and she's saying this might be a silly question, but still going to ask. Leona, there is nothing silly about this question, because this is actually on the agenda. So this is an excellent question, actually. Is there any known connection between toilet paper, pads, and fibroids? And I would expand that, not just toilet paper and pads, but female products in general. And this is, I think, an extremely important question, mainly because we cannot live without these female products. Like, we need them. It's not like we can say, well, I'm going to stop using, female products. You can't stop using female products if you are of childbearing age. So there is no getting away from it. So I guess what we want to know is, how is this connected to the fibroid growth, and what can I do about it?
Well, so much of the regular over-the-counter pads and napkins that we use, they're bleached. They're made with inorganic stuff. They're made with microplastics. All of this stuff that we want to get away from. And I mean, you're absolutely right. It does. It is connected to fibroids and other womb issues, because you're wearing this plastic thing, this bleached out thing, just over the opening, the vaginal opening, for hours, sometimes days. You keep changing it, you keep putting it back, and you're doing this for years, 20, 30, 40 years. Imagine putting a toxic piece of cloth over your earlobe for 40 years, what do you think is going to happen to your brain or your skull? Think about it. Your ear that has a tiny opening. If you were to get like just a gauge that was heavily bleached, had microplastics and inorganic material, and every month for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, you tape it on your ear and do that for 30 years, do that for 20 years, you will naturally start to develop things in your brain, in your jaw, in your throat, surrounding areas. It would be inevitable. So the same is true for your vaginal opening. If you have been for years wrapping or covering your vagina or your vulva, that area, with an inorganic, bleached, heavily toxic material, there's no question that you open yourself up for issues of the womb. There's no question. And when I speak about us taking inventory about our diet and our lifestyle, one of the things we need to look at are those things where we do without thinking, and we do it frequently, and we do it for years. Sometimes this holds the answer. Sometimes you're doing everything, you're eating organic, you exercise, you this and you that, but you're still having issues. Look to your daily habits. I guarantee you, there's something in your daily habits that you're doing so often that it's affecting you negatively. And I've seen women that have switched out their pads for organic ones, and their bleeding cut in half. That's how serious it is, right? So you look at everything. Look at your pantyhose, your material for your panties. Look at your soaps. Everything that comes in contact with your body forms part of your diet because you're consuming it. You're taking it in. So you have to look into that and make sure that you take stock. Save the money that you're gonna use for that weave and invest in some natural pads, miss. Please. I beg.
I
Save the
hear you
money
on
and
that.
redirect the funds.
Yes, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. I know I said that was going to be my last question, but just one more.
Sure, no problem.
Last question, for real. We've talked a lot about diet and what we should be keeping in our diet, what we need to be eliminating from our diet. What do you say to the women who tell you they have been eating clean for years? They don't eat meat. They don't eat junk food or what we consider traditional junk. They don't eat sugar. They don't use dairy. They don't drink coffee, and they will run down the list and plant-based, for how many years and years I exercise. And I still have fibroids. Why do I still have fibroids? I use natural pads. I don't use tampons, and so on and so forth. Why do I still have fibroids? If a woman comes to you with that argument, what do you say to her?
What I tell them is one of two things. One, you're lying. Two,
I didn't expect that.
straight up. I won't say it as bluntly, I'll say it nicer. But essentially, number one is that you're lying. Or secondly, you're unaware. You're ignorant of what living clean and eating clean is.
Right.
In this world, in this Western world, it is damn near impossible, don't care who you are, to have a clean diet. Unless you live in a bush somewhere, in some rural part of the world. it is impossible for you to eat clean 100% of the time. So that's why I said, you're either lying or you're unaware. Even as we just discussed CMOS, right? CMOS is now something that you have to be careful of. Organic is a legal word. It doesn't mean that it's actually organic. It means that a group of people came together and decided what list of things are acceptable to be put into a plant in order for it to attain the label organic. That's what organic is. You see? So once you live in this artificial reality where natural is not natural, organic is not organic, even the things that grow from the ground have been either hybridized or genetically modified. The banana is not what it used to be. The apple is not what it used to be. Trees are being tampered with. Farmers are being incentivized to use chemicals and call it organic. Once you live in that world, you live in a world, even if you live in the Caribbean, where there's tourism, you know, we're becoming more modern, and there are things because of the modernization of certain industries. It's going into our water source. It's going into the rivers. You see, everything is connected. You don't get off.
Mm-hmm.
The devices that were used, the radiation, everything is affecting the plants. It's affecting the bees. The constant cell towers is affecting the bees, which pollinate the plants, which produce the fruits. So this unnatural world cannot give you a clean diet in its true sense. So we're all at risk, which is why we all must fast. We all must cleanse our colon. We all must do parasite cleanses, because it's a constant thing once you live in some kind of modern world. However, there is the rare woman, there is the rare case where even though you might not be 100% a clean eater, because that's impossible, but you've gone through such traumatic experiences, and that happened to me. I can speak to that personally. Your experiences were so traumatic, so prolonged, and so devastating that it manifested in disease of the womb. And even in my case, where I was eating an alkaline diet when my fibroid became its largest, I realized that I was abusing certain foods like chickpeas and wild rice, which are naturally estrogenic foods. And these were my comfort foods that I would go to when I was experiencing extreme anxiety, you know? So that's also an option, but you still will never be able to get away from what you're consuming. Right? That's always gonna be part of your issue, because we are what we eat. So even though you might be experiencing trauma, and that might be the main thing for you, it might not be your diet that you need to focus on mainly. I would still recommend, as part of the protocol, to make amendments to your diet. You might not think that you might need amendments, but I guarantee you, if we go through it together, there are things that you're abusing, there are minerals that you're not getting enough of. Most women are iron deficient. Most of us are iron deficient, right? So even if you're eating all the vegetables and all the good sea moss and the good herbs, you might not be getting enough iron. You might not be getting enough magnesium, right? And these things are going to cause a problem in your womb. Yes. So you might not be getting enough movement, might not be getting enough hydration, because some of us, we stuff our face with plant-based organic grains, but we're not getting enough fresh fruit. So that's a part of it too. So those would be my three options for someone like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap up this very interesting discussion. This you realize we could keep going like this for another 2 hours.
I
This
realize. So I'm hoping that I have an open invitation to come back and chat with you.
Yes, absolutely. Consider the open invitation issued
Thank you.
officially.
Thank you. Thank you.
Open invitation, because I could keep coming up with questions, and we could easily just keep going here from now until 10 o'clock tonight, but we're not going to do that, right? What I do want you to do, though, before we go, is I want you to let our listeners know, those who are listening now to us live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, as well as all the people who are going to be listening to this recording in time to come. Please let them know how they can find you, how they can contact you, where they can access your content, or reach out to you if they want your services to help in the healing of their bodies. Please let them know.
Sure. So email happywombclub@gmail.com. It's one word, happywombclub@gmail.com. And it's for TikTok, it's Happy Womb Club. Instagram, it's Happy Womb Club. Is there anything else? There is a YouTube and a Facebook page, but they're not active yet. So for the moment, I'm most active on TikTok and Instagram. However, if you want to chat with me privately, you want to send me a private message, please send me an email at happywombclub@gmail.com. My recipe book and my book on the 10 simple steps to heal fibroids, they will be in the bio of my social media pages. So that would be TikTok and Instagram. So just go search for me, click like, follow Happy Womb Club.
All right. Thank you so very much. I don't have words really that I think would be sufficient to express gratitude for the wealth of information that you have shared with us in the short space of 2 hours. This has been so good, so insightful, so informative. As one of my sisters always says to me, I appreciate love you. It's so good to just sit and just chat with you. I really, really appreciate the work that you do. And I know all of the listeners this evening and all the followers of the Always a Queen platform are also very appreciative of this work. And so, we want to encourage you, because we know sometimes the healers don't get a lot of encouragement from people. We forget that the healers are people, right? And as a healer myself, I know what it is like sometimes where you are always the person that everyone goes to. And rarely do people take a moment to encourage you, to speak life into you, to motivate you and strengthen you so that you can continue with your healing work. So I want to pause and acknowledge that and take a moment to speak some life into you and to empower you and tell you that we are embracing you. All of us here at the Always a Queen platform, we're sending you big love and big energy so that you can continue the big work that you do every single day. All right.
That was very much heartfelt. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you for having this platform. It's very brave of you. I feel the love. I feel the purposefulness behind it. And I'm so grateful for platforms like this that are willing to have these discussions.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, the work must go on. As you said, no holding back in your post. All right. So this has brought us to the end, my friends, of another Always a Queen, The Metamorphosis podcast, live podcast, or as they're calling it nowadays. I heard another influencer referring to it as vodcast.
Oh.
I was like, wait, is this a new word? Where did this come from? Yes, vodcast, because it's both video and podcast blended into one. I said, listen,
I see.
can't manage, you know. cannot, I cannot keep up because
Right.
what is going on, you know? So this is the end of the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis vodcast for today. Thank you to those who are here listening and watching us live. And also, I send greetings into the future for those of you who are going to be watching this recording over the months and the years to come. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for your continued support of the platform. And I will be back again in 2 weeks with another informative and very educational discussion, perhaps entertaining as well. So come back in 2 weeks for another episode of our podcast here. Thank you so much once again for being here, Keisha. We
You're
love
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
I send love and light to all of you. And as usual, I encourage you to be a beautiful week. Bye, everybody.